This world belongs to those who know how to rule this world, who can easily play with people's minds and emotions. Learn 9 ways by which you can identify manipulators in a few minutes. They say the most dangerous predator is the one that doesn't look like a threat. It doesn't snarl, it doesn't raise its voice, it smiles, it listens, it waits. You pass it in the hallway, shake its hand, laugh at its jokes, and by the time you feel the weight of the leash, it's already around your neck. Manipulation in this era isn't a spectacle, it's an art, and its artists are subtle, patient, precise. They don't attack you. They make you walk willingly into a trap you think is your own idea. To survive here, to rise, to rule, not in a world of brute force, but one of psychological warfare, you must become fluent in the language of silence, perception, and slow moves that look like nothing until it's too late. The naive believe that evil announces itself, that it enters with a storm. But the truth is, it walks in quietly, dressed as a friend, as a helper, as someone who just cares too much. It complements your ambition, mirrors your pain, and slowly rewrites your story until you can't tell where your decisions end and theirs begin. But there's a power that cuts deeper than exposure, a power Machiavelli understood long before modern minds ever coined the term manipulator. That power is in letting them believe they've won. It's not revenge, it's architecture. You design a future in which they walk freely toward their own collapse, not out of hatred, but indifference, strategic, cold, deliberate indifference. Because you already know, people who feed on control always overfeed. They don't know when to stop. And when you disappear, just slightly, just enough, they start to starve. The manipulator's game depends on your emotions, your anger, your confusion, your desperate need to explain yourself. But if you stay still, if you breathe instead of react, if you watch instead of speak, you become untouchable. They can't find a handle to pull, a button to push. You become a mirror that reflects nothing back, just silence. And silence terrifies them more than confrontation ever could, because in silence, they lose control of the story. But don't misunderstand. Silence isn't surrender, it's surveillance. It's when you study them. Watch how they twist words, how they turn conflict into currency. You notice what makes them nervous, what fractures their mask, what triggers their need to dominate. And when the time comes, you don't confront, you don't accuse, you ask a question, one that sounds innocent but makes the entire room tilt. Because the strongest punch is the one no one sees coming. Power isn't loud, it doesn't perform, it doesn't beg to be seen. Real power is knowing you could destroy someone and choosing not to, not out of mercy, but because they're not worth the energy. The manipulator will try to drag you into a play you didn't audition for. They'll hand you a role, the angry one, the jealous one, the unstable one. But if you refuse the script, if you rewrite the scene with silence and poise, they're left talking to themselves. You want to make a manipulator panic? Show them they no longer influence how you feel. Be pleasant, but not present. Be kind, but not available. Respond, but not quickly. Let them feel the shift. Let them wonder if you figured it out. That unease, that fear of being unmasked, is more powerful than any argument you could make. And while they're spiraling, while they're doubling down on control, you're building trust elsewhere, quietly, slowly, permanently. True dominance doesn't come from isolating others. It comes from becoming essential. Be the one people turn to when they want clarity, when they want truth without the noise. Become so steady, so consistent, that your absence says more than their presence ever could. Manipulators can't stand structure. They rely on chaos. They breed confusion. But when you carry the calm, when your actions align day after day, you become the anchor, and chaos cannot move an anchor. You don't need to defend yourself when your life already speaks for you, when your habits speak louder than their rumors, when your presence makes noise without ever raising a voice. That's the paradox of control. The less you reach, the more you hold. The less you explain, the more they wonder. And when you stop giving reactions, they have nothing left to manipulate. But sometimes, the sharpest move isn't pulling away, it's offering kindness. Not to mend, not to reconcile, but to disarm. Kindness that isn't soft, but strategic. You offer it not because you're vulnerable, but because you're invulnerable. And when they lean in, when they relax into the comfort of your calm, that's when you step back. That's when you let them feel the void they didn't see coming. That's the cut that doesn't bleed right away. The manipulator craves loyalty, but fears competency. They want allies who follow, not peers who lead. So you lead quietly, you show results, you solve problems, and soon, the crowd that once cheered for them begins to shift. Not because you asked them to, but because gravity always moves toward the solid. They lose their hold, one person at a time, and you didn't have to convince anyone. You just had to be immovable. There's no need to declare war when the enemy doesn't even realize they've been surrounded, when their every tactic becomes predictable, when their stories start to echo hollow, when people begin seeing them not as powerful, but desperate. That's the long game. That's the art of invisible dethroning. And it only works if you don't need to be right, just strategic. Don't aim to be feared, aim to be unreadable. People fear what they can't predict, and manipulators fear being predictable. Mirror them until they can't tell if you're friend or foe, until their every word is reflected back with no emotion, no reaction, just presence. In time, they will implode from the pressure of their own mask, because performance is exhausting, and authenticity, when sustained long enough, exposes all fraud. Let them think you're naive. Let them believe you're uninformed. That's the bait. You're watching, not sleeping. Planning, not passive. And one day, when they overextend, when they try one trick too many, they'll look around and realize no one's following anymore. They weren't pushed. They were simply left behind. You don't defeat a manipulator with rage. You defeat them with irrelevance. And that's the final, silent victory.